There's a moment about 40 seconds into the new Odyssey trailer where Charlize Theron, playing the nymph Calypso, asks Matt Damon a question. She asks him what he remembers. And his answer, what he chooses to remember and what he doesn't, is really the entire thesis behind the work that this movie is based on. So let's talk about that, and the Cyclops, and the dog, especially the dog. Welcome to the Understory, where we dive into different sci-fi, fantasy, and literature topics and dig down deep to find the stories underneath it all. If you're new here, consider liking or subscribing. This is a brand new channel, and it helps out so much, and I really appreciate it. So overnight, Christopher Nolan went on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and dropped a new trailer for The Odyssey. This is his biggest film ever. Biggest budget of his career at $250 million. First narrative feature shot entirely on IMAX 70mm cameras and a cast that reads like someone got drunk and tried to draft an Avengers team of prestigious actors. Damon, Hathaway, Pattinson, Zendaya, Theron, Tom Holland, John Barenthal, Mia Goth, and so many more. And this new trailer is about 2.5 minutes of densely loaded imagery, and there's a lot in here that only makes sense if you've dove in deep into this work or if you've watched a video like this one. So that's what we're doing. Stay with me. We're going to go from the obvious stuff to the deep cuts and ending with an Easter egg I've not seen anyone else talking about, which is, in my opinion, the most important shot of the whole trailer. The trailer opens with Charlize Theron as Calypso. If you don't know Calypso, she's the nymph who held Odysseus captive on her island for 7 years on his way home from Troy. 7 years. What's interesting is what Nolan is doing with this scene. In the original work, the Odyssey, Odysseus tells most of his story just as a flashback. He's at a banquet hosted by the Phoenicians, and he sits down and just monologues for 4 straight books of poetry about everything that happened to him. Books 9 through 12 of the Odyssey are structurally just one long flashback, delivered by an unreliable narrator who is by trade a liar. That's the whole conceit of Odysseus as a character. He's not Achilles. He doesn't win by being the strongest. He wins by being the cleverest, the most cunning, the best liar in the room. Homer literally calls him Polytropos, the man of many turns, many ways, many tricks. So when Nolan opens the trailer with Calypso asking Damon what he remembers, and Damon's answer is, Penelope, my son, he's setting up a frame story. He's telling us this whole movie is going to be Odysseus narrating his own past, and we're going to have to decide how much of it to believe. Nolan also told Colbert the film is structured non-linearly, which, I mean, of course it is. He's Christopher Nolan. The man can't resist. But it's the right call for this material because the Odyssey itself is non-linear. Homer didn't tell it in order. Why would Nolan? To kick this off, I want to let you know who this guy is. This is a shot of John Barenthal as Menelaus, the Spartan king, screaming triumphantly at the close of the war. Menelaus is Helen's husband. The entire war was fought to get her back. So his victory yell is loaded. He won, he got her. And his fate after the war is going to look very different from Odysseus's, but we'll save that for later. The trailer gives us a brief shadowy glimpse of the Cyclops, almost certainly Polyphemus, the giant whose encounter with Odysseus kicks off the entire 10-year detour home. In the original work, Odysseus and his men land on Cyclops' island, sneak into his cave, and start helping themselves to his food. Polyphemus comes home, traps them inside, and starts eating Odysseus' crew 2 at a time. Odysseus eventually gets the Cyclops drunk, blinds him with a sharpened stake, and escapes by hiding under the bellies of his sheep. As Odysseus is sailing away, he can't help himself. He shouts back at Polyphemus, taunting him, and tells the Cyclops his real name: Odysseus, son of Laertes, sacker of cities. And that is the moment the entire rest of the poem goes wrong, because Polyphemus is the son of Poseidon. And the second he learns Odysseus' name, he prays to his father for vengeance, and Poseidon, the god of the sea, spends the next 10 years making sure Odysseus can never get home. The trailer shows the Cyclops is already gripping one of Odysseus' men mid-meal. So Nolan is keeping this entire arc, which means he's keeping the moment of pride that destroys everything, which is again the entire thesis. The same cleverness that wins the war also keeps you away from your wife and son for 2 decades. So while Odysseus is doing all of this, the war, the Cyclops, the 7 years on Calypso's island, what's happening back home in Ithaca? 108 men have moved into his house and are trying to marry his wife. This is one of the most insane and underrated parts of the original work, and the trailer gives us our first real look at how Nolan's going to handle it. Robert Pattinson plays Antinous, the leader of the suitors. He's the worst of them, the cruelest, the most arrogant. He's been eating Odysseus' food, drinking Odysseus' wine, and pressuring Penelope to pick a new husband for years. Anne Hathaway is playing Penelope, who is, depending on how you read it, either the most patient woman in literature or the most sophisticated political operator in all of antiquity. She tells the suitors she'll choose a husband as soon as she finishes weaving a burial shroud for her father-in-law, and then she unravels her work every single night so the shroud is never finished. She's been running this con for years. Nolan giving us a strong look at Antinous in the trailer tells us the climax of the film is going to be the climax of the poem. Odysseus comes home, disguised as a beggar, and slaughters every single one of the suitors with his own hands. Not metaphorically, like with arrows. It's one of the most violent endings in classical literature, and Nolan is, of all directors, the most likely to actually shoot it. Around halfway through the trailer, we get this shot. And I could be wrong, so let me know if I am, but I believe this is when Odysseus goes to the underworld. Odysseus, on the advice of Circe, that's Charlize Theron's other role, descends into the underworld to consult the prophet Tiresias about how to get home. And what he finds there is a parade of ghosts. His mother, who died of grief while he was away and he doesn't know, his friends who died at Troy, and Agamemnon, the commander of the entire Greek army at Troy, the King of Kings, the man who led them all to victory. Agamemnon's story is a dark mirror of Odysseus's. He went home from the war too, and the moment he walked through his front door, his wife and her lover murdered him in the bath. And I think Nolan is setting this up to be a really cool theme, because some men come home and find their wives waiting, some men come home, get killed in the bath. And Odysseus doesn't know which he's going to come home to. Now, to kind of wrap this up, here's where it gets fun. Here's a couple things that are kind of deep cuts. First is Elpenor. There's a brief shot in the trailer of what looks like Elliot Page with their face caked in mud. And the speculation is that they're playing Elpenor. Elpenor is the most pathetic death in the entire Odyssey, and I mean that affectionately. He's one of Odysseus's crew, and after their stay with Circe, Elpenor falls asleep drunk on the roof of her house, forgets where he is, wakes up, falls off the roof, and dies. He doesn't even get a heroic death. He just falls off a roof. And then his ghost is one of the first ones Odysseus sees in the underworld, asking to be buried properly. Now, this last one is got to be one of my favorites. This is Argos. This is the shot I haven't seen a lot of people talking about. Maybe they are, and I haven't seen it, but I want to talk about it. Argos is Odysseus's dog. 20 years before the events of the poem, Odysseus raised a puppy. He left for the Trojan War. The puppy grew old waiting for him. And when Odysseus finally returns to Ithaca, disguised as a beggar, even his own wife doesn't recognize him. The only living thing on the island that knows who he is immediately is his dog. Argos lifts his head, recognizes his master after 20 years, and then dies. It is the single most devastating scene in the entire poem. 3 lines is all it takes, and they do more emotional work than the previous 20,000 in some ways. I guess you could say Homer wrote the original sad dog scene 3,000 years ago, and we've been ripping it off ever since. If Nolan keeps this scene, and I don't think you would have showed the puppy in the trailer if he wasn't going to keep it, there's a real possibility that the most talked about moment in this entire $250 million film is going to be a dying dog. Now let's get into what we didn't see in the trailer. Some things we do know is that Zendaya is in the movie playing Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and Odysseus' divine protector. Tom Holland, who plays Telemachus, Odysseus' son, also only gets a few little fleeting appearances. What Nolan appears to be doing is not making an action movie, it's a movie about memory, which tracks for Nolan. The Odyssey is a poem. It's structurally about a man telling the story of his own life, choosing what to remember and what to leave out. And every adaptation that's tried to film it straight, chronologically, episodically, Monster of the Week style, has flattened it. Because the point is not that Odysseus fought a Cyclops. The point is that 20 years later, sitting in a stranger's hall, he chose to say he fought the Cyclops. And we have to decide whether to believe him. Nolan has spent his entire career making movies about unreliable memory. Memento, Inception, Tenet, Oppenheimer, every one of them is about how the past is a thing we construct rather than a thing we remember. And he just got handed the foundational text of that idea. The poem that invented the flashback, the poem that invented the unreliable narrator. I think this is going to be the best version of his career-long obsession with memory he's ever made. I also think it might wreck people in ways they're not expecting. The Odyssey hits theaters July 17th, 2026. IMAX 70mm tickets sold out within an hour when they went on sale a year ago. So if you have a 70mm theater within driving distance, you should already start planning. That format is the point. That format is why this film exists. If you read the poem, read Emily Wilson's translation. It's one Nolan said he drew from. It's the only translation in English by a woman. It's the most readable, and it's genuinely awesome. If this video helped you see anything new in the trailer, the best thing you could do for the channel is leave a comment with an Easter egg you spotted that I missed. I'm going to read all of them. And hey, if you enjoy what this channel is doing, consider subscribing. But until then, this is the Understory, and I'll see you next time.